Hello and welcome to this really special event here at St Luke's in London. My name is Rachel Leach and I have the honour of sharing with you the premiere of a new film and a new collection of music by Cevanne Horrocks-Hopayian. So if you go to Wandsworth Road in South London, you come out of the tube station and turn left and walk down the high road. You pass the usual things on your left, the chicken shop, the off licence, and across the way there's a tower block and a much loved but very tatty children's playground. And then you come to a strip of terraced houses, just normal London Victorian terrace houses. If you knock on the door of 575 and you're lucky enough to have it opened by the wonderful Susie Thompson, you don't walk into a house, you walk into a work of art. It was back in the 1980s when Kenyan novelist, poet and British civil servant Khadambi I'm going to get this, I knew I was going to get this wrong, Khadambi Asalache, I'm getting a thumbs up, Khadambi Asalache bought this house from rescuing it from a group of squatters. Now pretty soon he realised there was a bit of a damp problem in the downstairs basement kitchen, and to fix this problem he took some wood that he'd reclaimed from a skip nearby. This was the 1980s and many people were ripping out the wood from their houses, and he fixed this against the wall. He must have looked at that and thought, that looks a little bit plain, because then he took some more wood and taking his Stanley knife, he carved a series of patterns which he then put on top of the wood as a fretwork. And this began a 30-year project to transform the house. If you walk into the house now, every surface, the floors, the ceilings, the doorways, the walls are covered in his fretwork. There's also flashes of colour, geometric designs, and beautiful little pictures, little paintings within it all. And if there's a blank space, that's not by chance, that's by design, because you know, life has blank moments in it. If there's a bit that's asymmetrical, that's by design too. Everything is detailed, everything is as it should be. And everything has a story behind it, from the dancing ladies along the mantelpiece to the Thompson gazelles that are at the top of the stairs at dog eye level. It's a really miraculous and amazing place. Now, 2 years ago, young composer Cevanne Horrocks-Hopayian got the opportunity to work within the house alongside the National Trust and London Symphony Orchestra. And she's created a series of musical pieces in the various rooms. The wonderful people at LSO Discovery have made a film of these pieces, and that's what we're going to show you. So it's with my great honour and privilege to present to you Inkwells by Cevanne Horrocks-Hopayian.
behind the family's hut where he was born and raised, and listened to his sister's chants. The village one day awoke, bestowed its pastoral pride, and bid him farewell. On his return from England, the neighbours came, flocked around him. Oddly, his first act was to read them aloud the opening lines of Paradise Lost, and followed this with a talk about Longfellow and his love of Pope. Their startled eagerness held beyond a reading from Wordsworth, and their eyes lost a little glimmer as he adjusted his voice to recapture an Oxford accent. He then unfolded an album, and the village saw for the first time a grey charm before them, the Thames, as it moves silently east past the Tower Bridge. Listening patiently, trapped at the edge of precise phrasing, unique learning, and there was silence. Some people rose and collected their stools and walking sticks, parted, and moved their peasant features away, like a squatter rises, recollects himself, seeing his presence out of harmony with things. There was an old baobab tree in the centre of the village. Here they went and sat to regroup back their dignity. Here, where they know themselves best, in the clearness of a calm, quiet shade.
Well, there's a little small audience here in St Luke's, and I think they want to clap. I'm joined by the composer of that music, the marvellous, amazing Cevanne, and very prominently featured LSO violinist Tom Norris here. And we've got time for a little chat. If you want to send any questions our way, then tweet us, or there's a little box if you're watching on YouTube where you can write in a question, and we'll try and get to as many as possible. So we've got one from Devrim who says, what is the main focus of the composer in these works, and how did you approach the musical structure?
Well, Devrim, because I've had a lot of time to try different approaches structurally. I've been inspired by the beautiful visuals which you saw, the use of structure, as Rachel was saying earlier, with the use of asymmetry and pattern and loops. So that influenced some of the pieces where you heard a lot of rhythm. I've been influenced very literally as well in recording some of the sounds of the house, which you will have heard in Inkwells, which was the piece that actually my sister was singing. Those are sounds of the Inkwells which were filmed. Right. And on top of that, I also had a go myself at creating some visual art also to respond to the structures in the house. So I have a little show and tell here where I can show you a bit more clearly. Basically what happened was I was sitting in one of the rooms and looking out at these inkwells, and the way that the light caught them just gave me lots of ideas. So I recorded the sounds of them, but I also sketched them so that I'd try and remember the feeling of sitting there. And in sketching them, I caught these little stools that Khadambi had beautifully carved, and I chose 5 notes to be shown through these stools. And so when you read the music, I did all this by hand, the singer works through these different notes and ornaments them accordingly, and as you turn the page, those notes reduce because the holes go away, and there are some little long-eared rabbits which are also featured in the bedroom, which influenced her ornamentation. So you would have heard her improvising in that piece. So there are several different musical structures there.
And the text of that is Khadambi's text?
Yeah, it's a beautiful poem which is just one line, which is a fresh breeze from a distant land blew through his pen.
Wow. Yeah. So Tom, what was your role? Did you just read what was in front of you, or did you have input?
I was like a fret saw. I was an instrument, literally, and playing one, but I suppose being one. I'm in awe, and having seen the film, things have come together in ways that I couldn't have imagined just being part of it. But I mean, just to be able to be so close to a composer like this in the creation process, it just leaves you wondering, how much of the finished result you conceive when you start something like this. And I know for you it was a long-winded process, and it had many stages. And I'm just happy that I was involved as early in the process as I was, and that I can see where it's got to at this point.
And it's not finished, is it? I mean, there's more.
Yeah, we've got a final concert in February on the 11th, which everyone's very welcome to come to. And yeah, I think that will be me sort of really refining, because what you saw today, you saw 3 sort of world premieres there, so that's new material which will be developed, and I really do value feedback from the performers, and I love writing for people like Tom and actually finding what they really do and write for their voice. So by February it will be a refined, sort of complete piece.
It's the first time I've collaborated with a composer that's been so give and take, actually, because I noticed that when we first play a score that Cevanne gives us, personally I get as near as I can to what I think she's meaning, but oftentimes Cevanne will just respond very, very positively. In fact, never does she say anything negative about what you give back to her. but then during the course of rehearsals, you know, things will occur to her and things will occur to you as a performer as well, and it's just nice to have that as well, that process going on.
So it's a real back and forth.
I mean, I don't think I've contributed anything apart from ways to play, but you know.
Oh no, you definitely did. In the cave painting too, it was quite a lot of your ideas in that one. You were saying about sort of, I think what's really nice also when you visited the house as well, it's lovely to have visitors because you get to see it through fresh eyes. And one thing Tom was imagining was actually just the physical act of creating this artwork. And so some of the sort of tremolo and sort of soaring sounds were from your response to, that's something I hadn't thought of. I'd thought of the conception of the fretwork, but not the actual physical sort of creation. So.
And actually we did see, didn't we, the knife that Khadambi used, that he used for all of it, obviously with different blades, but you had to be really quick to see that, but it was there. Yeah. So that's very inspiring as well to see this sort of gnarly.
Yeah, such patience.
We have a question from James who says, what's Cevanne's usual day of composing, and do you compose every day, be honest?
My usual day. Oh dear. Well, I like to compose next to a food source, so in the kitchen near the fridge.
Wait, actually, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, no, it depends on like how near to a deadline I am, but I like the different stages. Sometimes I really enjoy composing to a short sort of deadline because I can clock in and out. This might get very boring and technical, but you know, sometimes I really do discipline myself and treat it like I'm starting today at this time in the morning, and I will finish, and I will take time off in the evening. Other times it will just sort of consume me or whatever. But when it's a project where I have the luxury of time, which this residency is, I like to wait for ideas to come to me, not in a lazy sense, but more in I try not to force myself. And so often things where I write very quickly, which I can do, it's because I've been thinking about it for months and months, and I've been working it out in my head, and then it comes out.
And you did have days when you just sat in the house, you told me, which is amazing to just be there, you know.
Yeah, I think I'd like to do that for my final sort of stretch of writing, maybe sitting there and just writing, because it's very special sounds in the house itself.
I have to say, it is an unbelievably special place. I mean, that film really showed it, but we can't say it loud enough how unbelievably overwhelming the space is. And, you know, I think it's somewhere you visit once and you never forget. And I've told everybody to go and visit the house. Although it's difficult to visit, you have to make an appointment. Anyway, so Andy has said, where did Cevanne study and who are your teachers? Who were your teachers?
Well, I did a degree at Cambridge University in music, and it was very traditional, and I appreciated that because I came from a background which I hadn't had that sort of training before. I was also very lucky to go to the Junior Guildhall of Music and Drama, which is very local to where we are today, and that was because a teacher I had noticed I had an interest in composing for GCSE music. So it's just lucky, really, that happened, and that they took me, and my mum could chuck me or my dad on the train every Saturday. So I guess I've had lots of teachers, but now as a composer I'm sort of on my own, and it can be quite lonely. I think it is nice to have a sort of mentoring structure, and that's something that the LSO is really good at, because my residency is part of the Soundhub scheme, and they have all sorts of sort of setups for composers to actually find a community and feedback, and I think that, you never stop learning, which is obviously a cliche, but I think particularly when you do a career which is very insular, because you're just writing on your own, actually seeking sort of learning in friends is really good.
Yeah, and on the Soundhub scheme, you all get to write and meet all the players, and you get to play a lot of their pieces. Yeah,
and it's an amazing, diverse range of ideas and styles, and obviously everybody's different. But and it's I think Soundhub's brilliant for that it just brings so many ideas together into this sort of this forum where everybody can get involved, sort of dip their toes into it as players. We're not bombarded with it like some days where you're literally from 9 in the morning till 9 in the evening. You're just trying to get through music. But it's more of a contemplative and building structure, which I think is a great thing.
Yeah, it's great, and it's kind of unique, really. There's not many orchestras that do this, It's great. So we've got Oscar, who says, how did Cevanne manage to create such an intricate timbrelic juxtaposition between the instruments?
Wow, I mean, I guess those instruments all have different timbres, different tones, just by their very nature. I loved using string instruments, obviously because they're made out of wood, as is the clarinet, because you're surrounded with beautiful, intricate wooden carvings, and the voice has a very sort of emotional quality because we all have voices. So I thought they were important tones to bring together, and the clarinet, because it also uses breath, is a nice sort of gradation between. So I think you can have the voice communicating with the violin via these via wind instruments, I guess.
I think it's genius that you've got singing, because then you're using Khadambi's words. It's just, I mean, in a way it's really obvious, but not everybody would have done that, and I think that really brings it to life, because he's right there in the music,
Yeah, his words are so full of images, which is probably unsurprising now that you've seen his house.
Yeah.
So it's really perfect for setting to music.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot of colour and different senses of pace as well. So I've really enjoyed setting them.
Sandra says, are all your scores so beautifully decorated?
Oh, it's always a very specific project when I do something which I call eye music, because it comes from a tradition in the Renaissance, which people have called Augenmusik, and I think traditionally it was more decorative, so people would, almost like illustrating the holy scripts and finding ways. Whereas when I do eye music, I really want to find a very structural way to rethink my music. So by carving into the manuscript paper, I've actually structurally given myself some rules to work within.
Yeah.
And that takes time, so
Yeah.
no, I don't do that many. So it's more sort of, it takes planning and
that's a one-off, right?
It is, yeah, there's no other one, yes. I will do some more to give to people, but
It's the first time I've seen this, and I just wanted to chip in because I've seen one of your Augen music scores before, because I was lucky enough to play something in another ensemble that I'm part of, and it that was Windows, and it was so much more basic and less intricate than that, and it's wonderful to see that, like with all these geometrics of irregular patterns on the front, and
they're the stools. They are Khadambi's stools.
But from that perspective, that sort of that great irregularity of what it looks like, and to see your actual fine sort of art style is great as well in the score.
I have a question for you, Tom, from NR. So do you prefer performing contemporary or older music, and what's the difference in the preparation that you have to do?
I think it depends on the piece, because there's some older music which, it can be frightful to prepare and to perform.
Older music?
It's older,
right.
And there's some contemporary music which is, wonderfully fun to play, and some that's downright challenging as well. And in terms of preparation, I think one has to kind of approach everything in the same way. But I think contemporary music does have more challenges, because it's composers are more and more pushing the boundaries of what instruments can do, and the modern instrument is sort of thought of as an evolving entity, and so therefore part of the composition process seems to be, everyone knows what a violin sounds like, but does everyone know what a violin sounds like doing this, or being pushed in this direction? And also the sonic things that you were talking about. I know this is slightly off the question, but I was quite kind of drawn into the juxtaposition of timbre, because that's something you must think about in the composition process. But again, it can't be obvious when you're putting pen to paper, or necessarily when you conceive the idea. But when those things come together in a room, there's some of the rooms we were performing in having particular sonic properties of their own, and how that affects the way the harmonic resonances come out of the instrument and juxtaposed with the singing, for example, is all fascinating. And I think that must be a big challenge for you as a composer to sort of find those things, because that's where all the delicateness of what you write sort of transcends into something, you know, really meaningful.
But also the house it's small, as are a lot of London houses, with kind of a low ceiling in the downstairs. So can you envisage these pieces being played in a space like this?
Yes, please. yeah, I was going to say.
But it would be really different, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Like, you have to be practical also, I think, while writing music for all sorts of settings, and also just know that it's just a wonderful thing to have live music and new music. So on the one hand, yes, I do write music with a space in mind, but on the other hand, I think it can still reach people no matter how big or small the audience and the space is. But for the concert in February that's coming up, I'm excited because that will be situated here in St Luke's, and so I'm able to include some brass instruments which will be much louder and won't upset the neighbours in Wandsworth. And because also in the carvings in the house you can see these other sort of instruments, and that's something which it'll be great to be able to create another sort of dimension of noise.
And you were saying, we have to wrap up, but you were saying about how there's some really amazing dancing figures and musical figures within the fretwork, and now you can really go for it with them in a space like this. Yeah,
if I tried that in the space itself, I'd just take stuff off the walls.
We're going to end with one really quick answer to this question from Bilal, which is he or she would like to know, can you get the pieces on Apple Music or elsewhere? So you get a chance to plug if you can. No.
That's very kind, Bilal. I mean, they're too new for that, but I think this broadcast is going to stay online, so you can at least refer back to it. And I am hoping to record these. So do get in touch and online, however, and hopefully you will be able to download them somewhere.
Brilliant. So we're going to leave it there. We need to say a huge thank you to Cevanne and to Tom and to everybody that's been involved in this project. The amazing photography from Chris and Guy, who are on cameras right now. And a huge personal thanks, I think, from all of us to Susie Thompson, who's just opened up this world to all of us and has been so generous along the whole journey. So thank you to everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this, and see you all again soon.
The evening stretches late. Its colour draws you thoughtlessly to wander about its horizon, where the few things you love now become clearer as you step closer to the edge of submission.